Right now, they just dropped a new episode. I was talking about like Love is Blind. Like now, I've watched a lot of these seasons now, and they basically were like, listen, we could defrost this meat, but we're going to put it in a microwave. So they put these people in these pods, and they're like, put it on high for like 9 minutes, and you could tell like the outside looks like it's cooked, but the inside is not, because then they get out and then they have to do these like killer vacations where after they saw each other and then they're deciding if they're going to hook up, not hook up. And then they're around the other couples, potentially people they were dating that now they get to see. It's insane what they're doing, but it is basically putting love in a microwave. That is, and I'm here for it. I want to see, because they're going to leave a fork in there by accident and that stuff's going to explode. Welcome back to Jaywalking. Today we are jaywalking. We are diverging off the first 2 episodes a little bit because I want to talk about a guilty pleasure that I think not only I have, but I think a lot of people have. And sometimes as guys, especially as guys, we don't talk about it. And I love like trash TV. Like, when I have a moment, and obviously it's not many moments, but when I have these moments, there is stuff that you'll catch me watching that you'd be like, you watch that? I mean, because that's how my wife looks at me. Like every day she walks by me and she's like, what are you watching? And I'm here for all of it. I mean, I don't know if it's just an escape, right? Because that's what entertainment is. We're just trying to escape reality for a little. I mean, the Romans did this thousands of years ago, the whole concept of bread and circuses, right? It's like, that's what the Hunger Games, if you watched or read the Hunger Games, then the whole goal of it was to distract from real life because we need that escape. And that's for me, like what it is. And hey, if you're going to judge me for it, then that's fine. I think years ago I'd have been like upset about it, but now I'm like, dude, I love watching this stuff. Listen, I have 2 master's degrees. I have a bachelor's in Spanish and Latin. I'm a teacher. Listen, if I want to watch Love is Blind, I'm going to watch Love is Blind, okay? If I want to watch Jersey Shore and Jersey Shore Family Vacation, I'm going to do that, all right? Because I love it all. And I thought a little bit about, like, when did this start for me? Like, what was the first? And I think I grew up in an MTV generation of the 90s where, you were diverging from the concept of just having music to having shows, whether it was like Beavis and Butthead. But the one I remember is The Real World. The Real World, and then the Road Rules, like the one where they like went on the RV. And that was like the first reality show I was ever exposed to. And I remember, the only thing I remember is this guy named Puck who like put his finger in peanut butter, and it wasn't his peanut butter, and it was like the biggest deal, whatever. And it's just living rent free in my head still. And that was the season for me that I just remember watching and getting invested in those people. And I know for me personally, it was like, I have such a crazy life. It was probably nice to see other people to kind of be like, oh, well, you're not that crazy. I think that's what we do. It's like, what's that, Schadenfreude, where you laugh at the misfortunes of others? I think there's something about that that's like, oh, it's very endearing because you're not the only one. And so I think that's why I kind of did that. And I was like, I watched a ton. Like growing up, I was watching stuff like Roseanne, Married with Children, Growing Pains, Boy Meets World, Full House, Step by Step, Family Matters, and I'm like Home Improvement. And these were all classic, for the most part, American families. But it wasn't my family, so I was almost doing like research on what a typical family should look like. When you're being raised by 2 women in an area where you can't talk about it, you're like, okay, I got to pretend that I've had some facsimile of this life. And so that's why the things like Step by Step, Roseanne, and the Bundys were cool, because it told you that you didn't have to have the growing pains. You didn't have to, be a Seaver, and even Family Matters and some of those like the Cosby Show that were like your classic families. I felt comfortable in saying, oh, well, Step by Step, they were like a mixed family, like a New Age Brady Bunch. And I think, or initially, that's why I was watching some of those TV shows growing up, because it let me like see a stencil for what I thought my friends were maybe experiencing. And I always knew I was different though, because then I would stay over my friend's house and they'd all be playing like video games and like his bedroom, and I'd be like out talking to Linda in the kitchen, swapping French toast recipes. Like I was the schmoozer. I always got in with the parents well because I grew up around adults. Like no gay couples in my era were having kids like they are today. That wasn't a thing. I mean, in my era, you had people who were married, had kids traditionally, realized or finally were going to live their truth, and then they got together and hid that they were. So you weren't around that. I was around other gay couples, but they weren't gay couples with kids. So I think I always felt comfortable with adults. And I was like, yeah, my life probably should have been some kind of weird 90s sitcom. That'd have been interesting. But even like dinosaurs, if you remember that show, like again, a classic. It was like Roseanne, but with dinosaurs. I mean, I don't know. It was very interesting for me, I think, growing up in that era to be like, those were a stencil for me. And so I think that's where my love for that kind of TV, of that escapism, but also kind of reconnaissance, was kind of cool. And now it's like, I work all day, talking about verb tenses and mood and doing all this discourse of, high level thinking. And I just want to veg out. And also like, I love the reality shows, AGT, The Voice, Home Makeover. Like there's something about seeing people win, seeing your average person do something really cool. And like, I'm an empath. So like, I'm like feeling it, like my wife will look at me and she's like, oh yeah, how you doing over there? You need some Kleenex, and she'll like tease me a little bit about it. But I'm like, listen, I was raised by women. Okay. I have feelings and I'm going to feel them. And it's nice to have an outlet. I love when somebody gets a golden buzzer on AGT. Are you kidding me? Like I love that. There's just a good feeling of like living vicariously through that person, or an appreciation as someone who's out there busting my butt in the entertainment world now, trying to, make a name for himself and do those things. I can see myself in that story. And so I think that's what everybody enjoys about that. They can see a version of themselves in that. And then I love Jersey Shore, because at first I think I just liked it because I was like, okay, this is what my kids are watching when I was teaching. And so I kind of wanted to have a pulse on what they were watching. So when I hear them make these references of like GTL, I knew what they were saying and not like look like a noob. So I think part of it started as that, but then it was just kind of brain rot, mindless. Like, hey, I only have 20 minutes to relax before I'm going to bed. Let me just watch the situation, okay? Because it was a situation, And I think that was kind of cool. I think I can understand, sort of what these kids were idolizing. And it was scary, but then I'm like, oh, I'm tuned in. I love this stuff. What's Sammy, Sweetheart, and Ronnie going on right now? So I just loved all of that. So I think that was part of that. And I don't know, maybe you guys have something, drop some comments in on what trashy shows are you watching? I mean, right now, if you caught me at any given moment, Love is Blind is just dropped a new season, so I'm watching that. Bailin' Out Loud from TLC. I watched this girl on TikTok. Love her story. Love how she's like putting out awareness about Tourette's. When I think about, the jokes I tell about my daughter with autism, I'm doing that to raise awareness, to educate, and to like normalize. And I love how she's doing that for the Tourette's community. So, and I just think she's adorable. I think she's great. I see a version of my daughters in her, and I want her to win. And I love the relationship she has with this kid, Colin. I'm like, as a dad who has girls, like, I think I'm also watching it from that perspective and being like, I see how her dad reacts, and I'm like, oh, cool. And I see how her sister is tough. And I also identify myself a lot with her mom, because I like how her mom is like very go with the flow and very like this is that. And I just love the counterbalances of it all, because I think that's what family is. When I kind of dissect it in my mind, well, what is family? Because for me, that's been a very different word. It didn't have to mean blood. It didn't have to mean mom and dad. It could mean a variety of different people in my life. And I get to pull the feelings rather than the titles. So I pull the feelings from how people treat each other rather than who treats each other that way. So I think I've seen gender, I've seen family roles from such a different perspective that I'm just kind of trying to see the zeros and ones of it, rather than see the actual people in it. I don't know. That's my take on it. But if I'm also watching, I just finished Dance Moms. All right. I'll take that one. I get it. I can take a moment for y'all to make fun of me wherever you're at, pause, laugh. But yeah, my daughter was like, Dad, are you watching Dance Moms? I'm like, yes, I'm watching Dance Moms. because those women are crazy. And then again, my daughters do gymnastics, they do all this stuff, but these girls are like doing it on like an elite level. And I'm like, oh, again, these are people who are like, you want to see win. You want to see them do really well. You want to see, I just love the aspect of, that. But I also love the drama. Who doesn't love drama? Jerry Springer was for a reason. When I skipped school in 6th grade, I used to watch a show called The Richard Bay Show. And this show was only on, like, nobody's ever heard of this show. It was only on for like maybe 4 or 5 years in the 90s. But it was like Jerry Springer meets like Family Feud. Like every episode had something like city drag queens versus country drag queens. I mean, like it was just the most ridiculous topics, total brain rot. But if I stayed home, I think it was on around 10 or 11 in the morning on like HBO or something, and totally was watching that. But yeah, those are the kind of the shows that you would catch me watching right now. And my wife, on the other hand, not a fan. We don't watch these together. I don't know if that's common for other couples, but she's not about it. She's just totally judging me, and I get it. But she watches Bridgerton. I don't want to watch. I tried to watch Bridgerton. We watched about like 4 or 5 episodes. If that's the part where we differ, so be it. That's fine. We have enough screens and devices that everybody can do what they want. She's actually a big book reader, and she's reading all sorts of, but she's reading trash. So she's not over here reading War and Peace, right? So it's like she's reading different stuff. So I get it. We all have our thing. Jim Gaffigan or someone has a bit about like, maybe you watch Glee. We all have whatever it is. And I think we should embrace that a little bit. So those are my guilty pleasures. I actually was doing a lookup of what are the craziest sort of reality shows out there. And I didn't realize this, but there are a few. Maybe you've heard of them. If not, I swear these are all real. First one I saw, Sexy Beasts. Netflix apparently has people dressing up like with prosthetics and stuff, like they're like a live action Beauty and the Beast movie, and they're all dressed like these like crazy mythical creatures, and then they go on a date. So they don't actually know what they look like, or they're not seeing the best version of them. I was like, that sounds insane. Another reality show I saw out there, Best Funeral Ever. What is this, like a spinoff of My Sweet 16? Like this is like a really weird, like Pimp My Ride. Now we got Best Funeral Ever, Pimp My Coffin. That seems weird to me. But the next one I saw, Buying and Dating Naked. 2 separate shows. Buying Naked, Dating Naked. We got Naked and Afraid. America's very prude about this with this whole nudity thing. Like to us, it's like this novel concept. I took my daughters over to Spain to visit my dad like a couple summers ago. And my youngest was probably like 6. And we were at this beach. And if you were a young kid under the age of 5 or 4, then your parents you just drop trowel and go in the beach. Like they were probably going about their day, pulled off to the side, get in the water for a little bit. So they just have the kids go naked. And my daughter, who had never been around that, was like, Daddy, I know I'm not supposed to look, but I can't help but stare. It's just because, again, we just have this culture where we're not around that. So I guess that's why these reality shows always involve something naked. I heard another one about like there was a show called like Ghost Hunter Naked, or like maybe because then they think their clothes were having residual stuff on it that would scare the paranormal activity. I don't know. But whatever it is, we're obsessed with being naked. Another one I saw, and I kid you not, Vanilla Ice Goes Amish. That's right. Ice baby, okay? And that's tricky for the Amish because they don't have refrigerators. So Vanilla Ice would probably melt pretty quickly in the Amish community, but check it out because apparently it's out there. I Want to Marry Harry. I think this must be an older one because they had a lookalike that looked somewhat like Prince Harry, and they found 12 of the brightest women who were convinced that this was Prince Harry and that they were dating for his hand in marriage. And that makes me sad as a dad of girls. Like that's my goal, is to raise my daughters to not just stay off the pole, but to stay smart enough to never try to go on a show like this. Joe Millionaire. It's like Undercover Boss style. Like he's not really a millionaire. He's like an average Joe who's a construction worker. This was years ago. I remember this one. And then the other one I've seen, Strange Addictions on TLC, where like people have the weirdest, like somebody's like eating plastic bags is like an addiction of theirs. Like, that one I've been addicted to watching that one. I've been caught on that one. But there's just so many. And so I thought we'd play a little improv game. So I teach comedy at Soul Joel's. We have a comedy class. We do these like 6-week kind of, if you're a bucket lister and want to try it out, or an open micer is trying to level up, then we do these. And so I do an improv game where I have these cards. It was actually a product called Pivot Pitch from a guy who was trying to sell them to companies who are trying to do icebreakers, and it's really cool concept. So you basically get Mad Libs. You get a noun and an adjective, and then in the game, you actually have to propose a product item. Well, I'm going to say whatever I pick, I'm going to have to propose is an actual reality show. And so I haven't planned these ahead of time. I shuffled them up. So here they are, and I'm just going to pick at random 2, and we're going to see what this reality show is. So my reality show is called Lopsided Barcode. So my episode is called Lopsided Barcode, which, let me tell you, this is the spin-off of Supermarket Sweep of the 90s, where basically you have to check out at a self-checkout where all the barcodes won't scan, so you have to manually enter them before time runs out, and whatever you've entered, you get to keep. Okay, that was kind of lame, but I'm going to do another one. I don't care. Sometimes in comedy, you bomb, okay? Steve Martin, he's like, you gotta let yourself be bad sometimes. You got to explore. So let's do one more. The Dull Tooth. Oh, this is great. This is where it's a bunch of people in dental school, and it's like, is it cake? But they have to figure out, is it a real tooth or is it a fake tooth? And they have like dental hygienists who like walk through like Ring Girls and like have signs up every time, just to get the commercial ads up, because you need to have a little TNA in there too. All right, that's all I got. I don't think they were that good, but sometimes you swing and you miss, and that's what happened today. I will say though, as someone who loves trashy TV, I also loved like Cops growing up. I don't know if you remember why. I don't know if I was just looking to see if I had relatives on there, but at prison shows, I got really obsessed for a period of time there with all of these shows that had to do with incarceration. And listen, I've never been arrested. I've gotten maybe 2 or 3 speeding tickets in my day, but never anything serious. So I think I always wanted to see what was on the other side. So like Raw, they used to have like this one Raw. It was always on at like, if you couldn't sleep at night and you put on like, I don't know, Discovery Channel, they would always have Locked Up. And it was like just following what prison was like. And Netflix has a ton of them, from like kids in juvie to all girls, boys. I mean, I'll go down a rabbit hole. There's this one guy who has the world's most dangerous prisons. And I guess he had once been in prison for something, and now he goes around to prisons, and they like I don't know how they convince them that the cameras are there or what they tell them, but they always do something, and he goes through. And my youngest daughter was like walked in the room while I was watching it, and I left it on, and now she kind of likes it. And I don't know if I can tell my wife. I think I just have, because I think she listens. But sometimes, like, listen, it's PG-13, so okay, she's 8, whatever. We've all done it. But she's like, oh, can we watch that? I'm like, no, we can't watch that. Your mom's around. But like, I enjoy all of these because I don't know. And even within the subculture of the people in those pods or whatever, the humanity of it, right? The fact that there's a pecking order, there's still a society. There was one show where it was like a social experiment where they were letting the inmates run the unit, and then they like to see if they could manage themselves. And so it was a thing the warden was trying. And then, they would mess up or something would happen, people would fight, and then they would lose privileges, and then they would kind of go back to it. So there's a lot of really cool ones out there that if you're obsessed like me, then, that's a guilty pleasure. And I alluded to this earlier, but the paranormal activity stuff, I'm a guy that's like, I don't know if I believe in ghosts, but you know what? I stay tuned for those shows. I'm totally down from watching them and them like playing some fake. It's like when you learned wrestling wasn't real. That's probably what's going to happen to me. But for right now, I still think that paranormal activity stuff, I'm like, maybe I mean, have you ever had a ghost appear when I've never, I lied. There's one moment that plays in my head where I stayed at my friend Steve's house, and I just have this like phantom image in my head of waking up and seeing this woman in like a Victorian dress in his house. And I don't know why, but I mentioned it at one point, and they had a look like, oh, like they've seen that before, or there was some story about, the typical, oh, you're sitting on the site of a Victorian house where this woman had, hung herself in 1872, whatever the case may be. I don't know if that was true, but that was the only time I've ever felt like maybe I experienced some kind of like paranormal activity. But I'm going to watch. I mean, if I can't sleep at 2 a.m. and it's on Travel Channel, I'm going to watch. I think that's weird now too, though, because my daughters are at a competition right now in Jersey for gymnastics, and they stayed over last night because it was a 2-hour ride. And they FaceTimed me this morning, and my daughter's like, I missed SpongeBob last night because they were at the hotel, so it wasn't on demand. So she missed the episode. I'm like, yeah, that's what my life was like. If I missed an episode, I had to wait a week. Like, if I wanted to know what was on TV, well, with the Sunday paper came the TV guide, and you would like sit there and look at the papers of. And I remember when we first had the first channel that's scrolled with what was upcoming, and you couldn't control it yet. It just scrolled, or like it would go like 3 and stop for a second, so you had a minute to watch it. Like, it's crazy, the evolution, or like the evolution of the internet. Because now my kids are watching stuff. I'm like, I wasn't watching stuff when AOL came out. You were on there for like chat rooms and like maybe to check sports articles. But now to see like everybody's watching stuff on their screens, insane. Netflix, all these streaming services, Apple TV. I mean, how do we keep up? Like, that's the other thing. Somebody were recommending shows for me, but now I have to like buy a subscription to HBO Max, or I have to like buy Apple TV. Like, somebody recommended Silo to me recently. I'm like, I don't even know what network. So I guess it's Apple TV. So it's like, it's hard to watch some of these shows because now you got to buy all the things, and it's become such a crazy business that I don't know. We only have Netflix and Fios and Disney Plus, and that's it. But I know there's like Hulu, YouTube TV, Sling. I mean, there's so many. Well, I don't know what you guys, but drop in the comments the ones you're watching, because I would love some. If you want to like, update my palette, and you're really concerned about me, feel free to drop me in a show I need to watch, and maybe we'll talk more about those in future episodes. Because I used to, like, my wife and I, when we were first dating, Lost was like the big phenomenon. Like, you would just, I would go over to my neighbor's house because I lived in like an apartment building, and we would do Lost parties every week. And there's something about the camaraderie of watching something together, which I think is super cool. And my wife and I haven't found a show that we both really connected with since Lost, so I haven't really been watching dramas as much. I mean, if I wanted a drama, I'm just going to live my life. Okay. So between being a teacher and being a parent and a special needs parent and growing up with the family I grew up with, you kind of want different. And I'm here for it. I love all that. Guilty pleasure, self-care, whatever you want to call it. It's both. And like I said, I don't have a ton of time to watch TV, but when I do, and I even like going back and watching the old episodes. Like, my youngest is now into Boy Meets World, which I love. Actually, I've worked with a comic, Steve Young, who actually wrote for the show. I mean, that was insane to me. He used to write for The Tonight Show and some other stuff, but he wrote for Boy Meets World. And I'm like, especially now as a teacher, Mr. Turner, Mr. Feeney, like, I love like the wholesomeness of that. And what they thought school like looked like. And it was just, that was cool for me as a kid. Plus I had a huge crush on Topanga. I mean, I think her name's like Danielle Fishel or something like that. Huge fan. I mean, every show had something like that for me. All of the shows I was like, had some girl like Step by Step. I actually liked Al, the tomboy girl. All right, the blonde, like older, she was too bitchy for my taste, but Al, total. Roseanne, loved Darlene. That was a huge crush on Darlene. I was like all of those. I don't know. Home Improvement was all boys. Jersey Shore, really like Sammy. That would probably be my favorite. She's Sammy Sweetheart. I mean, that Angelina, the transformation of those people now that they've had so much money to like what they've done to some of their faces. I mean, ouch. I mean, I do love the Situation story. Mike Sorrentino, how like he really hit rock bottom, the tax fraud, drugs, and now what he's doing with his life. I'm here for the Situation at this point. Like I totally. That's why I watched the family vacation version that's going on right now. I think that has been awesome. Totally love it. So I don't think I'm wasting my time. I think that, like I said, it's a slice of Americana. It's a slice of life. It's, there are people that identify with that. And as a public school teacher, I see all walks of life. And I think that's cool because it means I have an eclectic taste for people. And that as a comedian, I get to meet some of the wildest people. And I just love that. Nothing surprises me. I feel finally like it's like everybody's got something. We're all a bunch of misfit toys. And that's just humanity in general. I think we like to pretend we're a Norman Rockwell painting, but we're not. Like, we are far from it. So, I think watching all of these shows, I don't know, there's something to it. I think it's really fun, and I'm going to keep watching them. So whether you like it or not, I don't think I'm wasting my time. And as someone who spends my time with middle schoolers, I mean, sometimes I need a break, and it gives me some perspective on them too, which I think is great. I got some dates on the calendar, so please go to jayyodercomedy.com. Follow me on all the platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Jay Yoder Comedy, Facebook, whatever. Please subscribe, comment, do all those things for the episode. And, hopefully I'm coming to a town near you soon, so get in there and get to a show because we'll have a good time and get to see a different side of me if you've only seen me from the podcast. So thank you for listening. See you next week. Thanks for coming to Jaywalking.